So with I know you talked about your journalism background. So writing is something that, seems to be something you've been doing for a very long time. And I know you're a published author and
Mhm.
coming up on your release of your second book.
Yep, 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 yep.
So talk about, that love of writing and that passion for, being able to tell stories on paper and things like that, and of course, tell us about your new book that you're releasing as well.
Well, I guess I started finding a love for writing in well, first I'll have to say I found a love for speech, and so I was in the National Forensics League in high school, and so what I would do is I would speak other people's words, and so whether it's Maya Angelou or one of the other great Black poets, I would communicate their words through interpretation, and so over time I realized just the power of words, of communicating those words, of engaging an audience, and so I joined the yearbook staff, and I noticed that the copy that I would write, it would always be something that resonated with people because I was able to show instead of tell, and that's what we learned in journalism school. And so when I got to Winthrop University, where I went for undergrad, I joined the newspaper staff of the minority newspaper, and I realized the power of continuing to tell stories. And so as I go on and get my doctoral degree, I start studying as a historian, as a media historian. And to do the work of a media historian, you are technically relying on documents of the past to tell a story, to answer a question. And so, people don't realize that our letters tell stories about our lives, our books, our email posts will tell stories, our emails as well as our social media posts will one day help historians answer a question about society or answer a question about yourself. So, I just see it as being a content creator. As a preacher, I'm a divine content creator. I get to communicate on behalf of God as an interpreter of what God is saying in the earth. And so, words have power. Words frame the world. If you go back to the creation story in Genesis, so I believe that that's my contribution to the world. Some people will sing words, some people will speak words, some people will write words. So I get the honor of writing as well as speaking words that hopefully help people heal and just come to an understanding of themselves and the world around them. So my first book is Digging for Treasure, Jewels of Hope When Pressure and Time Collide. I would go down and get a copy because it's right here, but I can't reach it. And so the second book is a completely different book. The first book was more of it's spiritual autobiography, if you want to put it in a genre. And so it talks about my life and God's work in my life, but it's more of a devotional that I invite others to come along and read with me. The second book, however, is completely different. It's still an invitation for readers to come along on a journey, but this journey is a little bit more hot and spicy. Okay. So the journey I'm inviting readers on with the second book is a journey of understanding intimacy. And so, if you are a churchgoer or you are in the Christian tradition, we talk a lot about intimacy with God, but sometimes we don't spend enough time in our formative years talking about that intimacy in our romantic relationships. And so, many of us end up in crazy relationships, we end up in crazy scenarios, and we sometimes never experience the fullness that God designed for us as it relates to being intimate with a partner who can show us God's love, and we can do the same by showing them God's love in the context of a romantic relationship. So that book talks more about that.
I love the quote from it. You said it's the book that church girls, what was
So it's not in the book, but I call it's the book church girls didn't even know they needed. And
it?
because we don't, I grew up in a church in Ackaby, for those who are familiar with Charleston, and I'm grateful for the opportunities and the exposure I got in my church. But whether it was at home or in church, I don't think going out into the world, I had enough information about sex and sexuality or sensuality to really help me as an adult woman. And so I had to wrestle through it and navigate through it. And so that's what the book talks about, me navigating through my sexuality, my sensuality, my relationships, trying to look for love in all the wrong places and all the wrong faces. and I am not alone. And because of that, I wanted to invite people on a journey with me that I think would be beneficial for their own stories. Because this time during COVID and the pandemic, it has been a time of just really being still, reflecting. And I realized that some of us, we are, of course, trying to protect our physical bodies from COVID. But in the meantime, God used some of this time to even heal us. And so, I was healed through the writing of this book and sharing it with the world.